Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.
Richard Pulcher of Lublin is a Democratic candidate in the 87th Assembly District. Richard, welcome back to WisconsinEye.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, I know you've run before. Let me ask you what are your top two campaign issues this election cycle, Richard?
Well, it's hard to narrow them down, but I think we need to do something about our agricultural policy. And I would certainly like to promote sustainable energy in Wisconsin.
Well, just a quick follow-up. Give me your idea on helping ag, please.
Well, we need some sort of production controls. That is promoted by the Farmers Union. In 1991, I went to the National Mastitis Convention, and a professor from Texas there, in his address to the convention, said, the only thing wrong with the dairy industry is all the ice fishermen in Wisconsin who milk cows. And I don't know for sure, but I wonder if the smaller producers haven't been singled out for extinction. We need to protect them.
Okay. How's the how badly has the pandemic hit in your region, sir? Has it had much of an effect?
For many months, we were less than 10. Now we're up over 120 cases. I just heard that about 90 students at the Medford school have tested positive. So it's beginning to hit home.
Okay. Do you think the governor should extend the statewide mask order when it's scheduled to end on September 28th, Richard?
If need be.
Okay.
The science has to determine the situation, not what I think.
I understand. If state tax collections are short in this budget year because of the pandemic, if they're short $1 billion and you're in the legislature, would you recommend cutting spending or raising taxes or fees?
Perhaps both. The devil is in the details with that. You need to, if you're going to raise taxes, you have to do it to the people who can afford it the most. And if you're going to reduce services, you need to do the ones that are the most frivolous.
Okay. Hospitals are playing a key role in treating COVID-19 patients. If you're in the legislature voting on the next budget, you think hospitals should be an even greater priority than they are in the current budget?
Yes.
Okay, that's a straight up answer.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Last week, State Senator Chris Kappinga introduced the bill, and here's what it would do. If an organization or a business has followed COVID guidelines to protect its patients, customers, or employees, they could not be sued for a COVID violation or a COVID illness. Do you think we need that law?
I would be very hesitant about restricting anybody from a lawsuit. You cannot legislate away negligence or responsibility. If the reason for a lawsuit is there, it's there, even if they followed theoretically all the guidelines.
Okay. States around Wisconsin are legalizing medical and recreational marijuana. What's your position on that, sir?
I'm sorry, you broke out. I didn't hear the question.
What's your position on legalizing medical and recreational marijuana? Can you hear me?
Oh dear. Could you repeat that again?
Sure. What's your position on legalizing medical and recreational marijuana? Legalizing recreational and
I'm sorry, you're cutting out.
can you hear me?
Could you write your question out and hold it up to the video?
Well, it's how do you feel about legalizing marijuana is my question.
How do I feel about what?
Legalizing marijuana?
Oh, I think it should be decriminalized. I think legalizing it might be a little step too far.
Okay. What about the debate over police reforms? The governor's got 9 bills, and Republican Senator Weingard's got his bills, and the Black Caucus has got bills, and the Speaker's got a task force on police racial disparities. Any policing reforms you could vote for?
I'd have to see them. I was a fireman and an EMT basic and a first responder. In all my dealings with the police, they were excellent. I think what is needed is that the protocols for using deadly force should be made public. People should know when a policeman can fire on you. Reforms are perhaps needed, but you have to remember, these people put their lives on the line every day. Not only do they put their lives on the line, they put on bulletproof vests. So it would need to be what the individual response is. I'm in the unusual position where I back Black Lives Matter, and I also back the badge.
Okay. As a Democrat, do you support the governor's plan for a People's Maps Commission to draw the next congressional and legislative district lines?
Well, let's put this into a little bit of perspective here. A federal judge, when the state was sued, said that these maps that we have now are unconstitutional. The case went to the Supreme Court, and they said, well, they maybe are, but we're not going to require immediate redrawing of them. I think if we can take the politics out of it, it would be much better.
Okay. Let's talk about property taxes, which are high in Wisconsin. Should limits on what local governments, schools and local governments can levy in property taxes, should they be continued? Should those caps and limits be continued, Richard?
No. And the property tax is only part of what's going on here. Since 2010, the Wisconsin legislature, under the Republicans, has voted well over 150 times to take away local control from our local governments. It's time we started to give our governments a little more control, at least give back what they once had.
Should they have local control enough to find all new sources of revenue? Should cities, towns, and villages have a right to levy a half-cent sales tax?
Of course. They're all responsible to their own voters. If the voters of a community want something, the state shouldn't be able to say, no, you can't have it, you can't tax for it, you can't get it, especially when it comes to our schools.
Last year, the governor wanted to raise the gas tax to stabilize how we pay for highways and bridges. The gas tax is 30.9 cents a gallon, hasn't been raised in 10 or 12 years. Could you vote to raise the gas tax?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that there's a lot more to that question, or there's a lot that's not mentioned in that question. A number of years ago, there was a group that said they would no way raise taxes. And so when they came to financing our transportation system, they borrowed the money. They borrowed it to the extent so that in 2018, 20% of the transportation budget was going just to maintain the debt, not to pay it off, just to keep the bondholders satisfied. So what we need to do is get rid of that debt. Now, another thing that's not included in that question is, what about high efficiency vehicles and electric vehicles? Electric vehicles are the wave of the future. They don't use any gas. So how are you going to maintain, but they do use the roads. So how are you going to maintain the roads? By just a gas tax. In my area, we have another situation. We have a lot of buggies on the road. They don't use any gas either. So this thing needs a lot of rethinking. Now, I don't know if the 30.9-cent gas tax will be enough, but we need to do something. And for right now, it's a start. Yes, I would vote for it.
Okay. When a school district or a local government plans a major public works project, should they have to give a preference to Wisconsin businesses, Richard?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for the short answer. Okay, final question. Difference between you and your opponent on November 3.
Well, okay, for one thing, can you see that? I wear a mask. My opponent has said that he will not wear a mask. If he goes to a business and he says they require a mask, he will go someplace else. I will wear a mask. The other thing is, I believe that we need to do something about agriculture. And I've already mentioned that before, but he has been on the agricultural committee, and we've had record farm bankruptcies while he's been on there. What's he been doing? It's a good question. The other thing is, I believe in sustainable agriculture, sustainable energy. We got to get our greenhouse gases down. The cost of electric, of renewable resources, solar and wind, to make electricity, they have all plummeted. They have all come down. And I think we need to be looking ahead at what our technology is, not only to make it cheaper, but we need to reduce our carbon footprint.
Okay, thank you very much. Richard Pulcher of Lublin is a Democratic candidate in the 87th District. The election is November 3rd. Richard, thanks for talking to WisconsinEye.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Have a good day, sir.
You too.
Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.